Yay, welcome back to Tech Tip Tuesday. Today I'm going to be trying to answer that question that I get a lot from newer designers, which is how much do the details really matter? Is it really important to have a pattern that is completely area free? How much do you need to stress over that? That kind of question. This one's kind of going to be just you and me chatting, so feel free to put me on the background on another tab or something like that. I don't have any slides for you. I'm just going to kind of give you my 2 cents from what I've seen after several years of working as a tech editor. So do the details really matter? Well, the answer is yes, and I'm a little bit biased because I am a tech editor, and that's definitely part of this, but I want to give you a couple of really important reasons why they matter so much that you might not have thought about before. So first things first, you are kind of promoting yourself as a business, right? You're going to be selling these patterns in exchange for money. It's a business transaction, and so your customer has a right to expect that that pattern has some level of polish to it, right? And you're never going to get it completely error-free. There's always going to be small typos every once in a while. There's just not a lot you can do about that because we, at the end of the day, are all still human. But the more of those that you have, the less professional you look. And it's going to be a much harder argument to get people to pay money for the product that you're selling if you're just constantly having these errors in every single one of your pattern. And I'm not talking here about math errors, right? We have to get rid of those. If you have a math error, the pattern doesn't work, people waste money on fabric, it's very, very frustrating, right? We're gonna kind of set those aside and talk about all of the other little errors, right? Formatting errors, little typos, little spelling errors, things like that. How much do those matter? And part of it is this professionality, right? Every time you have one of those little details where it's just kind of like, oops, somebody made a mistake there, it just kind of ruins that professionality that you're trying to promote as you're a business. The reality is that a lot of your clients are going to kind of see you as a sew-lebrity, right? You're just a normal person, but they're the person that they interact with you on Instagram and social media, and you're this kind of larger than life figure to them. And so the more of these little mistakes you kind of rack up, the more that veil is kind of pierced a little bit, and that makes it tougher to kind of promote yourself as a business. The second really important thing is that any kind of these like little typos and organizational errors, formatting errors, things like that, contribute to kind of the mental calorie load that your reader is going to have to use when they try to consume this pattern, right? So, and I've talked a lot about this before. Anytime the organization's a little bit off, it's a little bit difficult to follow, all of that is going to require your reader to basically think harder when they're trying to follow your pattern, and that just gets taxing over time. This is not something they're necessarily conscious of, but it adds up, and if you get too much of it, they're just going to kind of get to the end of the pattern with this feeling that that was like way too much trouble and it really wasn't a fun pattern, and that's not what you want, right? That is not a pattern that they're going to want to promote to their friends, to their guild members. They're not going to be talking about it on social media. It's not going to be this great, amazing pattern that they loved. It's just going to be kind of this one that gets shoved in the corner that was kind of like, meh, not really great, right? That's not what we want. We want them to be raving fans about your patterns and spreading it with word of mouth. That's how you get a pattern that really goes viral and ends up earning you a lot of money. So little typos, little errors, all of those kind of little details, all of that, if it's not done really well, kind of adds up and ends up contributing to this really big mental burden that your reader is going to have to carry. And that's not good. We want to avoid that, right? So that's another reason why the details really do matter here. And then the final thing here is that for shops that may want to kit your pattern, obviously you have to get rid of the math errors for that, because if they order the wrong amount of fabric or cut the wrong amount of fabric, that is a major, major problem. And I've regularly had fabric companies coming to me asking me to tech edit because they've had this issue and they've ended up having to shell out thousands of dollars to kind of correct the issues with the shops that bought all of this fabric for kitting and then later found an error. So major, major problem with the math error. We've already talked about that. But in addition to that, if your pattern has a typo or a spelling error or something like that that just makes it look a little less professional, the shops are also going to take on some of that embarrassment, right? Because their customers are going to come back and be like, well, this isn't a very good pattern. Like, this is what they're selling me. I don't want to buy a kit from the shop again, right? It reflects badly on the shop as well. And so it kind of is a double whammy for you. Not only do you have customers picking up these errors, but now you have shops kind of grumpy with you and not wanting to buy your patterns because there's just too many errors in them. So do the details really matter? Yeah, they really do. And it's not like, don't let me give you the wrong perception here that if you have one little typo or one little mistake, everybody's going to lynch you. Most customers are really forgiving. They're not going to do that, right? So don't let this stop you from getting into pattern design and starting to publish your own patterns. This is not gatekeeping or a barrier at all. So please don't hear it that way. But Once you get a couple of patterns under your belt, you really do want to start paying attention to all of these details because they have kind of far-reaching effects that'll affect your brand reputation and reputation as a pattern designer. And of course, once that kind of gets rooted, it's really hard to change. So be careful about this. This is one of the main reasons to hire a tech editor, aside from just the math checking portion of that, which I've already talked about plenty on this channel. But they will pick up on all of these little details, these little formatting things that'll reduce the mental load for your reader and help contribute to making your pattern, just kind of average to really, really good, one that can get picked up by a lot of shops, by fabric companies that your customers are going to be raving about and sharing through the word of mouth. And that's what you want. That's how you launch a good pattern business. So I hope that kind of puts a lot of this stuff into perspective. Obviously, I am very much a details person, but it's something that I've grown appreciation for over time. Once you kind of understand how all of these things interact to help you build a business, this stuff is really important. And a lot of it seems like nitpicking, right? You send your pattern to a tech editor and they just tear it apart and have 1,000 comments back on it when it gets back to you. But this is what they're trying to address, right? All of these little details, making sure they're really refined so that you can put your best foot forward and launch a really good brand. Alrighty, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video and you found it helpful, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you next time for Tech Tip Tuesday.